Geologist, scientist, and really smart person, Jess Phoenix, joins us now from
John.
Los Angeles. Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. Okay, so this report, despite Americans buying more electric cars, despite expansion in solar and wind energy, closing down coal-fired power plants in record numbers, the lead author of this report says most of the carbon increase last year was directly attributed to an increase in economic growth. He then goes on to add, it does not have to be the case that a rising economy results in rising emissions. But it will be the case until economic growth is decoupled from the carbon economy, from emissions. That just hasn't happened yet in the United States. And all that other stuff, the wind, the solar, the electric cars, it's helpful. It's not negating the uptick in economic activity.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And until we have federal and state governments that are willing to actually regulate industry and the building sector, we are going to continue to see this type of rise in CO2 emissions whenever we have an economic boom. And we are not on target to meet the goals that we have set for ourselves in order to help stop the climate change slide that we're seeing.
Are there any examples of economies around the world which have actually managed to increase economic growth while reducing emissions at the same time? Is it possible?
Well, it's definitely possible. And anytime you see a culture that is heavily dependent on innovation for its progress, you are going to see things not only become more efficient, like we saw with the American manufacturing revolution at the turn of the 20th century, but you're going to see things become more environmentally friendly because no one wants dirty water, dirty air, dirty soil. And we all want a clean place for our children to grow up. So I think that it is possible, and it is something that we are seeing great strides in, particularly among a lot of the European countries. The Nordic countries are a great example of having more sustainable solutions that still work and help the economy function at a healthy level. We can do that here in the U.S. It's not impossible.
I forget, is it Sweden or Switzerland? One of the countries that have actually gone to a zero emissions economy at some point. That's the goal. At least they've got the goal. Because in the United States, we have a U.S. president who, does not believe in climate change. This is what he said last year after another report on climate, which was released by his own government. Listen to this.
I've seen it. I've read some of it, and it's fine. Yeah, I don't believe it. You don't believe it? No, I don't believe it.
Not only does he not believe in the science behind the climate change, he has this weird thing for coal, again, the president.
We're going to put the miners back to work. The miners go back to work. We're going to put the miners back to work. We're going to put the miners back to work. And everybody was saying, well, you won't get any mining jobs. Picked up 45,000 mining jobs, and the miners are very happy with Trump. We're going to protect our coal miners. We're going to protect our steel workers. I talked to the miners, and I talked to them about different way of life. They didn't want to hear about it. They love digging coal. That's what they like.
There's been this very deliberate strategy to roll back Obama-era policies designed to reduce emissions. It's been going on for 2 years. Do we know what the impact that would have had in this increase in carbon emissions, or is it too soon for that to actually show up in the science?
Well, we did actually have a trend towards decreasing emissions, particularly from the energy sector, and it still went down by 0.1% in this period that we're discussing over the last year. So we were seeing effects of this, of the policies that have been implemented over the last 20 years or so. So if we continue to strip away regulations that are designed to protect the American people and the world at large from harmful emissions, we are going to see these increases continue. And this is something we just can't handle. And I would like to point out, John, that I have worked in coal mining. It's one of the main reasons I founded an environmental nonprofit. There is no such thing as clean coal. And we saw coal plants closing at a record rate last year. Coal's a dinosaur. It's a thing of the past. We have to get with the program and move on to sustainable sources of energy.
I also think there's a report a couple of weeks ago that said basically solar and wind is now cheaper than coal. But this report found that to meet the Paris Agreement, the target of a 28% reduction from 2005 levels of carbon emissions by 2025, the US will need to reduce energy-related CO2 emissions by 2.6% on average over the next 7 years, more than twice the pace the US achieved between 2005 and 2017, significantly faster than any 7-year average in US history. That would seem to have absolutely no chance while Donald Trump remains president.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be a particularly friendly president towards environmental progress. However, this is not an impossible goal. This is something we can achieve. I mean, the United States is known for achieving really big, very lofty goals because we pull together as a country and we work towards a common purpose. So if we have a Congress that is willing to enact legislation, despite the president, we might be able to see some very good, significant progress. I believe we can do this. It's just a matter of having the innovation and the fires that will get that innovation going really able to be fed by incentives.
Yeah, well, very quickly, I want to finish on a bit of good news because, overall carbon dioxide emissions are still down, 11%, this report notes, since 2005. That's never really been sort of hyped by the Obama administration. I mean, and also, I guess, the George W. Bush administration as well.
Right, and both of those presidents made the environment something they wanted to focus on, but it wasn't actually something they were able to focus on. And I think that's something that you might be familiar with in the news business. Typically, the environment isn't something that gets people to tune in. They want to see reports about wars and things like that. But really, this is the greatest threat we're going to see. We have to deal with it.
I think the attitude towards climate change and reporting on news and what people want to know, I think that's changing very quickly. I hope anyway. But just as always, thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you, John. Take care.